This Ain't Mexico will come up next. I was texting off air with Tom DeLay, and I wanted him to come on. There's been a lot of criticism of Newt Gingrich from folks about his service. Mitt Romney's attack on Newt Gingrich. Hey, 4 years of as the speaker, he did a terrible job. And I said, Majority Leader DeLay, will you come on and talk to me about serving with Newt Gingrich? By way of full disclosure, I don't think they parted on good terms because you were there. And he did not want to do it, but I begged. So I'll play you that parody, or that song by Buddy Jewell in a moment. But our guest is Tom DeLay. Tom, thanks for being with us. I know you didn't want to speak on the record, but I think it's important. And I'm not a huge critic of Newt Gingrich, but I think it's important for people who were there at the time to offer their perspectives. And Mitt Romney has attacked Newt's record as speaker and the circumstances surrounding him stepping down. How would you describe Newt Gingrich as the speaker?
Well, I really don't want to disparage any of the four candidates. What has been said about Newt is pretty much true. He had to step down because the conservative Republicans, wouldn't vote for him again as speaker. Well, because he's not really a conservative. I mean, he'll tell you what you want to hear. He has an uncanny ability, sort of like Clinton, to feel your pain and know his audience and speak to his audience and fire them up. But when he was speaker, he was erratic, undisciplined.
How was he erratic? Tom DeLay is our guest.
Well, we'd have leadership meetings almost every day. And every day, Newt had a new agenda. You have an agenda, and you start working on an agenda, and you start going out and getting the votes and introducing the bills and working the committees, and the next day you'd have a leadership meeting, and he'd have a completely new agenda.
Was his agenda at odds with the conservative agenda?
Oh yeah, many times. He would. I don't know how to put it. He would have this great idea, and he wanted to go in this new direction. And you've got 435 people you're dealing with, and more than half of them are Republicans, and you're getting them all lined up to go in a particular direction, and he wanted to go in another direction. Almost every 15 minutes.
What was driving these new ideas?
Newt. I don't know, polls, people he's talked to lately, the last person he talked to. He's a new idea every minute, not necessarily a conservative idea.
Is this, he's admitted that sitting down with Nancy Pelosi on the couch was a bad idea. What leads him to do things like that?
He believes in climate change. I mean, he supported cap and trade. I mean, that's not particularly a conservative point of view. And there's policies. He was for amnesty for immigration, and now he's for something else. I mean, we've got. Let me preface this by saying he'd be a better president than Obama.
Would he be a better president than Mitt Romney?
Well, I'm not going to put it that way. If you want a real conservative, it's Santorum. Santorum's running for the right reasons, and Santorum is a true. I mean, I've known Santorum for 20 years, and this man is as conservative as they come. And I guess second conservative would be Mitt Romney, and the third conservative would be Newt Gingrich, and the libertarian is Ron Paul.
With regard to Newt's leadership, one of his defenses, and it seems plausible, Tom DeLay is our guest, by the way, is the ethics charges that were brought against him. Because Chris Bell brought some that I think you could argue were trumped up against you.
Yeah, in fact, Chris Bell got nailed by the ethics committee for bringing the charges. Of course, nobody reports that.
Were the 88 or so charges brought by whatever the guy's name is, David Bonner or whatever his name is? Bonner. Were those allegations? Nancy Pelosi is now hinting that, being an insider on that there are some.
It's all crap. Everybody, all of it was crap.
So you would say you have criticism of Newt Gingrich, but the ethical charges are
it's all political, and they were all dismissed except for one. And I was one of the few people that voted against sanctioning him on the floor of the House because I thought it was totally political and outrageous what the Democrats did to Newt Gingrich on the ethics charges.
Was Newt an ethical speaker?
Yeah. I'm not questioning his ethics, his character maybe, but he did the best he could as speaker when it comes to ethics and that kind of stuff. He followed the rules and did what he needed to do.
There has been criticism from some of the members of Congress, most of whom don't want to be identified by name, that his strict, top-down governance that first year in January of 95, obviously they rebelled against that. Was that necessary? I mean, you were there. You were a whip.
That's not what they rebelled against. We had to have top-down governance because we had promised the American people that we would do the contract with America. And we couldn't use what is called regular order, go through and have hearings in the committees and have the committees mark up the bills. We had 10 bills that we told the American people we would vote on in 100 days. So you couldn't do the normal process of legislating. We had to get them on the floor and get them done. That's not what people were rebelling against. What people were rebelling against 2 years later was his leadership style. And
Tom, can you hold with me for just a moment?
Sure.
All right. We will get to the song This Ain't Mexico from Buddy Jewell, but we have Tom DeLay on the line, and this is the topic of the day. Mitt Romney says Newt's time as Speaker is nothing to be proud of, that he didn't do half what he said he was. It was a tumultuous time. Rick Santorum has said, I don't want a guy who's a nominee that you wake up every day wondering if there's going to be an erratic moment. Tom DeLay described Newt Gingrich as erratic as a leader. Tom, thanks for being with us.
I want to hear that song.
You'll hear it in 12 minutes. Stay tuned. Okay. I know you listen, so stay right there. Yeah. You made the statement that, I'm only asking for clarification because I've never heard anyone else say this, erratic though he may have been. You said Newt's not a real conservative. He's more like Bill Clinton. Now, I think a lot of people that watched those days, 94 and then the contract in the first 100 days, you were there, Dick Armey was there, Speaker Gingrich was there. I think a lot of people would say, man, there was a lot accomplished, balanced budgets and all that. Mm-hmm. How do you fit Newt into that if he didn't believe it?
Well, because the rest of us did. I mean, I was whip, not majority leader.
Right.
And Army was majority leader.
Right. Sorry.
The rest of us and all those that we elected in 1994, we all believed it. And you didn't need Newt to pass all that stuff and do all that stuff. And in fact, Newt gets pummeled for impeaching Bill Clinton. He was against the impeachment. I don't know where people give him all the credit for the impeachment. There were many times that he chewed me out because I was so strong that we had to impeach the president. So the point is that you had people like Army, me, if you would, others. We had that great class of 1995. Of people that truly believed in the Constitution and wanted to turn this country around and go in a different direction. And we did. I mean, we did a lot of things. I mean, the first thing we did out of the box is we eliminated 100 agencies and get no credit for it. Welfare reform, balancing the budget, all those kinds of things. Bill Clinton didn't do any of that. It was our agenda. We told the people we'd do it, and we did it. And so Newt was Speaker for the first 4 years, but you just got to take into consideration. We spent a lot of time working with Newt, if you will, to keep him focused and keep him online with the agenda that we had promised the American people.
Why would Tom DeLay is our guest? Why was Newt the Speaker? I know there was. I've read I've never talked about this, but I know there was a move to oust him.
Yeah.
Why was Newt the leader of this group, or
well,
the speaker?
We had spent, I guess you could, there's no time period, almost 10 years before we got to 1994, working to take over the majority in the House of Representatives. And we spent every waking minute of every day, 7 days a week, working to that end. And a lot of people had a lot to do with that, not just Newt Gingrich. But Newt was sort of the leader of that revolution that we brought in 1994. There were 5 of us that met, Dick Armey, Bill Paxson, Bob Walker, Newt Gingrich, and me, that developed the strategy and moved forward, came up with the contract with America as a political tool to get the American people's attention. And we were focused on dumping what we called the comfortable caucus, run by those Republicans that just liked being, congressmen and didn't want to upset the apple cart. And we were the revolutionaries, and we upset that apple cart, and the country gave us the first majority in, 50 years.
On what issues, you mentioned global warming, but on what issues was Newt actually wrong? Y'all had a knockdown, drag-out over key conservative core principles.
Oh, mercy, that was so long ago. I'd have to think that through. He is a greenie when it comes to the environment. And so, the EPA and all that kind of stuff, I wanted to eliminate the EPA. And we used to have very, very strong discussions about reining back. We did rein back the EPA. We cut their budget and froze it basically for 10 years.
So you're saying him sitting on the couch with Nancy Pelosi was not the worst mistake of his life. It was him doing publicly what he did privately.
Yeah, he believes in that stuff.
All the attacks on Newt Gingrich since he left the Speaker's office, since he left public office, you said earlier he was not unethical as a Speaker. He was just wrong on the issues and errant or erratic. Yeah. The attacks on him for ethical issues since then, the Freddie Mac stuff.
Well, that's the politics of personal destruction. Believe me, I've been going through it.
So you wouldn't say that he was unethical as the Speaker or since? Your problems with him are on core issues.
Yeah, and he just he's. You have people, like Ron Paul. Ron Paul is I constantly called him the conscience of the House. I mean, he was constantly reminding us that there was a Constitution and we need to be following it. Of course, he never did anything. He'd just go to the floor and vote no. He never offered amendments, or he never, tried to pull people together and push an issue. He'd just go to the floor and vote no. But the point is we to our core, we wanted to change the direction of this country and get back to the Constitution. Newt doesn't have that core. He's just not. I'm not disparaging him. It's just I'm just telling you who he is. He doesn't stand on principle.
And you would say Rick Santorum, who you've known for 20 years, does?
Oh, definitely. The man, every ounce of his body is a solid core conservative. He was the conservative voice in leadership over in the Senate. You could always go to him. We get flack for the Medicare reform bill. We took a welfare state program called Medicare and applied free market principles to it. I mean, you had a program in Medicare, for instance, that would pay to cut your feet off because you had diabetes, but wouldn't pay $100 a month for glucophage to save those feet. I mean, there's economies of scale and crazy economics in our Medicare system. So we brought in the private sector, and you can buy prescription drugs now through the private sector, competing for your business. It's not a government program. It's just you can go to Medicare and participate in a free market system called prescription drugs. Santorum understood that and fought hard for it over in the Senate, and we got it done.
Congressman Tom DeLay, thanks for being with us. I know you didn't want to speak on the record because you know when you say those things, it's going to make news, and I appreciate you telling us.
Well, you're right. I'm trying to keep a low profile, but I don't think I did.